my name's Frank. I'm an American from New Jersey. I'm currently living in the United Kingdom, around the Cambridge area. And I'm an aircraft mechanic by trade and a pretty big nerd by night. What do I do? I document, teach, share, explore 3D printing and cosplay and prop and weapon replica making. I started just documenting building this suit, the Iron Man Mark 85 3D printed suit, and it slowly turned into just this much bigger thing. I have dozens of YouTube tutorials teaching you how to get started 3D printing, how to make certain props and replicas. I documented this whole thing, do a little bit of it all at this point, and it's just been so much fun. So, probably from the second I saw the first movie, my dad took me back in like 2009. He hit me with hey bud, you want to go see this Iron Man movie? And I wasn't a comic book fan at the time. I was like, sure, the previews look cool. And I went with him. I'm like, no, that's a really cool movie. Like, and that'd be so cool to have like that suit. Like, that's awesome. So I kind of fell in love with just the whole concept of the Iron Man thing. I kind of probably grew up more watching like DC, like Batman and Justice League and stuff, but like it was just so cool to see this I don't know, this futuristic robot ass-kicking suit. I was just like, this is cool. And I just fell in love with the movie, and I slowly fell more in love with the franchise and the MCU, and just I went on with the lore. And what was fun, I got really into the movies, and my dad grew up on the comics, so he we could compare notes. He'd tell me Easter eggs. I'm like, oh, this is what they did in the comic. And I'd be like, well, this is what they did in the movie. So it was just our little way of bonding, which was a lot of fun. And time went on, all that. And Endgame came out. And, I always had it in the back of my head, I want an Iron Man suit. Like, what kid didn't? But Endgame came out, and I fell in love with the Mark 85. I was like, I want that. I've always wanted to make one, and growing up, I liked building things. I had a big history building Gundam models and plastic models, and I used to work on cars, or the automotive industry for a living, and customizing them, painting them, fiberglass, wires, electronics, all of it. So like, I always felt like I could do it. I just didn't have a place to start. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how much it was going to be. Like, I needed a base. So I needed to start somewhere. And after Endgame, I was like, you know what? I have a little bit of money for this. It'd be a fun hobby. I think I'm in a good place in my life to try this. So I started doing research, and 3D printing ended up being like the way to do it. It just seemed, it was so awesome. Anytime I searched, anytime, you probably still do it, search like 3D printed cosplay. One of the highest recommended printers out there is a Creality CR10S, or a 10S variant, just because the build size, you can make such big things on it. And I was like, all right, this looks cool. The printer was about $500 new. I had to save up for it a little bit, but I'm like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be worth it. Bought the printer and dove right in. I made the Iron Man suit with a multitude and variants of different techniques, I guess. The whole suit is 3D printed, 99.99%, with the exception of a resin arc reactor cover, and then the Infinity Stone sitting over here on the hand. Everything else is all 3D printed plastic. Every bit of this. Oh, sorry, and there's shoes in there, my bad. So I got into 3D printing. I started to learn the hobby, and I bit off way more than I can chew. I should have done more research. It happens. But don't let that deter you if you are thinking about entering the hobby. There was just a lot more to it at the surface. I thought it would be a little bit easier. I was under the same assumption that some people were under, where you buy the files or you find a model, because I didn't model this myself. I didn't make this design. You find companies that model and make things for you. Like, I can build good, I can't design. I don't know, that's not my world. So there's people out there who that is their profession. So I kind of was like, well, let them do that part, and I'll buy the files, print them, and then I can do my part and make them look good, because this is not what they come out looking like. This is a raw 3D printed helmet, and a pretty good one at that. I've been at this for a little while now, almost a year. You learn things, you pick up tricks, you learn how to get your prints to come out better, and that saves you time on the back end of having to finish and sand and paint. But this is the kind of what you'll get right off the printer with just, you know, a little bit of learning. You got to take your time with it. And you know, there's lines in it, it needs to be sanded, there's work that goes into it. So this is a raw print, and with some love and some effort, you can get to a place like this. So this is what I ended up with. You end up with a raw print. Depending on what printer you get, sizes, there's tons of it. We'll talk about that later. And you get the print. So I had the whole suit done, and things are starting to come together. I'm like, this is awesome. So then it was like the next phase. I had everything printed, so then I had to make everything fit me. You know, I had to adjust things and figure out buckles and straps. How do I clip it? How do I wear it? Because there was a lot that went into that. And that I'd never done. I'd never done a cosplay. This is my first cosplay suit, and I think I did okay, but there was such a big learning curve because I'd never done anything like this before. And while building it, I started to realize that there wasn't good documentation for it out there. There wasn't in-depth guides or tutorials for 3D printing cosplay. Now there are a bunch of tutorials for EVA foam and paper craft and resin and fiberglass, lots of forums like that, and I did utilize some of those to get some ideas for how to connect everything. But in terms of actually printing a whole suit, there really wasn't much out there. So that's why that's what led me to start documenting this all. And like, hey, you know what? I actually like teaching and making tutorials because I used to do it for the car community. I'm like, let me document this. So that's why I started the YouTube channel, to like try to help people. And I thought I'd help a couple people. Turns out there are a lot more people than I thought who had the same questions I did. How do I paint? How do I get a fresh print like this to be reflective and glossy and metallic? How do I fit things? How do I do the electronics? There was a gap of information there, and I'm not the only one filling that void. There are plenty of other people doing this now, which is great. I am just one of them, and it's amazing. So I had a little bit of a leg up on making this suit because I have been working on cars for years. I know how to paint. This is all spray paint. This entire suit is 100% Rust-Oleum rattle can spray paint. And I think I did a pretty good job on it because that's how I've been painting for years. Buffing and polishing and waxing and wet sanding, and it's what I got used to. And working on Gundam models, I'm good at manipulating plastic too, so I wasn't scared to like mess something up. I knew how to fix it. So, and I've also been working with cars and electronics and wiring and lights and LEDs, and so I had a good idea of how to incorporate that into the suit. So there was a lot of skills I kind of came into the hobby with that really helped me out. Now that's not to say that you can't go and learn those hobbies. That's literally the point of my channel, is to show you. I didn't want to just like make this thing and like, hey guys, look. You know, I didn't want it just to be this thing you stared at. I wanted to show people how. This is how you sand your prints nice and smooth without wasting days of your life, you know? I started experimenting with my own little techniques that I didn't really see anybody else doing, and some of them paid off. This is how you do very simple 12-volt DC wiring. This is how you this is how you paint, this is how you fit things. So I'm trying to be very transparent in this build to give people a little bit more of a insight that I actually didn't have diving into it. So I developed a lot of techniques for this that I'm pretty proud of, and it just kind of, all the skills and hobbies I had throughout my life just kind of like, this was like the culmination of it, and everything fit. Everything I had done previously as a kid just like fit into this, and it was amazing. I'm like, oh, I can use that, and I can use this. And the biggest question I get is the paint. Like, oh my god, man, like, what'd you do? And did you get it? So a couple people ask, like, did you get it professionally sprayed? Like, no, it's just spray paint. The other thing are LEDs and lights. That's another big question I got. My suit is 100% analog, and what I mean by that is if you go on Google right now and you type in motorized Iron Man helmet, how to motorize an Iron Man helmet, one of the first threads that pops up talks about coding and Arduinos and programming, and it throws a lot of words at you that are really kind of scary when you're like learning a hobby. And I didn't know how to do any of that. I still don't know how to do any of that. I'm gonna learn eventually. But I decided there has to be a way to do this without programming and coding. I know how to do circuits and lights and relays. Like, that's not hard. I don't need a computer program to do it for me. So I went into this, and everything on my suit, the motorized faceplate, the LED eyes, an infinity gauntlet that turns on when I hold the snap pose, everything is direct voltage systems that I could draw on a chart, and you could copy wire for wire, and it'll work exactly the same as you with no coding. Even the face mask opening and closing, I have that working with no coding or programming, because I'm trying to give people options. I'm trying to give people alternatives to, you know, making this little dream that they had come true. Because for a lot of people, including me, like, having a suit like this, it's like a little dream come true. And you can get deterred and overwhelmed real easy when you dive into something as just wild as this. And I definitely got overwhelmed, and I had a crutch going in. So I can't imagine how some other people feel who just heard me say Arduino and they've never heard of, they don't even know what that is, you know? And that's fine. Or they've never cut a wire or soldered before. That's people. Not everybody does that. So I'm trying to lay everything out the best I can to get anybody possibly started. Another thing I was pretty proud of is making this infinity gauntlet. This was a trick I kind of learned from a little bit of the automotive world and then a little bit of the Gundam model world, and it's called resin casting. And I wanted the stones to be in color, because what I saw a lot of people doing is they'd resin print with a resin 3D printer. They'd print the stones in like white or clear, kind of like this, and then they'd put colored LEDs under it. But I didn't want them to always have to be on. I wanted them to look nice even when they're off. So what I did is I 3D printed the stones the same way I 3D printed this clear cover up here. I 3D printed the stones, took that plastic print, made a silicone mold around it. You can go online and get like silicone or resin safe silicone. It's really cheap. Made a mold around it and got resin dye, mixed some resin dye into all the colors I needed, poured it into each of the molds, and then I popped out perfectly colored infinity stones. And I am so proud of how this thing looks. Like, this is like my centerpiece for this suit, and I love it. And I think it just adds so much more depth to it. And yes, there are LEDs under it, which I also love to make it even brighter, and they turn on when I touch my fingers together, but right now it's not plugged in. So after I was done with the gauntlet, after I was done kind of painting everything, I wanted to get like a little bit more of a shine, and I actually used car cleaning products, like automotive products. I used Meguiar's rubbing compound, Auto Glim resin polish, and Meguiar's Gold Class wax to actually buff, polish, and wax the entire suit to give it a nice, smooth, glossy finish. And I think it paid off pretty well. And again, just another little thing I learned just through the years. And again, I don't want to deter anybody. I don't want to like sound like, oh, you know, you can't do this. Like, you look at all you have to learn. Like, there was years of trial and error in there too, and I'm trying to only put out the stuff that works for, you know, for people to emulate and soak up. So hopefully it's working. I think some people have gotten some good results from some of my videos and tutorials already. If you're floating around the idea of starting 3D printing, you see a suit, or you want to make things for around the house, for whatever reason, you're like, I want to start, I have no idea how to start. Do it. Just like, don't sleep on it. I help people get started all the time with recommendations. Hey man, buy this printer. Hey, I have never had somebody message me back and say, hey man, that was a bad idea. I hate this. It's always, oh my god, I don't know why I didn't do this sooner, because it's that fun. It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it, and it's just fun. All I would say to do is go online and grab yourself a like cheap Ender 3, a Creality Ender 3. They're like $200 right now. Like 200 pounds, 200 euros. They're full around the same price range. And it's a nice little desktop printer, like about yay big. And it's the like ultimate starter printer. Like, get it. There's tons of tutorials on how to set it up, get started printing. I even have a few of my own. So if you want to go, if you like me, go watch those. You can go watch somebody else if you want. I have a little tutorial series trying to help people get started, just literally from the ground up. This is what a 3D printer is. This is what the hardware is. This is what the software is. And I'm trying to take you step by step through it. But if you don't like the way my tutorial is laid out, there are plenty of others. And all you have to do is start. Once you start, that's the biggest problem, is just making that jump and leap into it. And you'll be off printing. Let's see, you spend about €200 on the 3D printer, you maybe spend 10 bucks on a roll of filament, a roll of plastic to print something, and all the programs are free, and you're printing like that from the comfort of your own home, and that's amazing. This helmet right here was made with a little more than half a roll of filament, so you can get some pretty big stuff out of, you know, a $10, $15 roll. If you were to get started, all you're looking for is PLA plastic, and it's cheap. It's pretty easy to print with, and it looks great. And you don't have to paint it. A lot of prints, you can get some really cool stuff called rainbow filament, and it prints like a rainbow gradient. They make wood filament. They make cool carbon fiber filaments. They make gold and silver filaments. So you can just print stuff and just decorate it around your house. You don't need to get all ornate and like paint it all. So that's what I like about this hobby, and you can use it for anything. If you have kids, if you are a kid and you know you just like science and technology, 3D printers are amazing for STEM learning, and just the technology and the things you can make at home now are incredible for school projects and just experiments, and it's just limitless. It really is a limitless hobby. So aside from the Iron Man suit and a bunch of Iron Man helmets, I also made this. I just got done with an Asgardian Stormbreaker, and what this is based off the concept art for Infinity War. This is what Stormbreaker should have looked like if the mold had finished. If you've seen Infinity War, you know what I'm talking about. They were trying to mold Stormbreaker with the Uber metal, and the mold didn't finish properly, and they didn't have a handle, so then Groot's arm took over as the handle. This is actually Stormbreaker, what Stormbreaker should have looked like in its entirety. What you see in the movie is most of Stormbreaker, the axe and the hammer, held together with Groot's arm. It's still Stormbreaker, but I wanted something a little different, and I found these files online. Quintinesp, I think that's his name, Quintinesp on Etsy, and it comes with it comes with the files for the Groot arm. I just wanted something special, and I painted it like an Asgardian weapon, you know, nice and gold and ornate. And I love this thing. It is just, it's imposing to hold. Yeah, this thing's awesome. I also made a Keyblade. I am a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. This was the first prop weapon I made. While I was working on my first helmet back in July, I found the files for this on Thingiverse. This is for free. You can go download this right now and mess with it. And I always wanted my own Keyblade. And this cost maybe, I want to say, 15 bucks to make total. And I have a Keyblade. Like, it's just on my wall. It's got a cool little Mickey Mouse charm that I don't know, I love this. I love this thing on the wall. And it'd be kind of funny to see Iron Man walking around with a Keyblade. And yes, I made a lot of different Iron Man helmets. I have a big collection of them that I give away on my. This is actually for a giveaway contest that's ending tomorrow, May 15th. So someone, lucky winner, is going to get this. And I try to do giveaways a lot because I love making these helmets. They're just so much fun to build and just kind of customize that I don't think I'll ever get bored of this hobby. And I was able to integrate some pretty cool electronics into it. So when you put the faceplate on, the eyes turn right on, and it's fully wearable, so you can put it right on. That's it. Watch me struggle to put this on. My next project is actually another Iron Man suit, and that's what this print that's falling apart in my hands right now. It is the Mark 39 Star Boost Gemini, and it's an Iron Man suit from Iron Man 3, and it makes a very, very, very quick appearance, and then it blows up. So I already started printing it. That's when my printers are running. You can kind of probably hear them. You can see him moving in the corner. But I already finished the helmet, and it's an all-white Iron Man suit. And it just looks beautiful. I've always loved the way it looks. I'm a sucker for white mecha and white armor, like that, like, you know, it's just clean. I love this suit. I'm very excited to make Star Boost. I almost have the arms done. The files for it are actually free right now, so if you want to get into 3D printing and make an Iron Man suit, there's and it's the same people that made these files, so they're very good files. You can actually go and download them for free completely, and you can be printing, like, you can just print the helmet if you want, you can just print the hand if you want, you don't need to make the whole suit. It's still free stuff, so why not stock up? I also have a couple other little projects in the works. I'm going to be making more props. I have some cool ideas for a Captain America shield, and I'm going to make Mjolnir. I have the Mark 1 Iron Man helmet. I want the first helmet and the last helmet. I think they'd be kind of cool to have on display. I don't think I'll ever run out of projects, honestly. Just, there's so much I want to print. No, I don't. I want to. I can't say I've ever cosplayed yet because I've never been to a Comic-Con in a cosplay. I've gone to them. I've attended them, you know. But I've never actually gone because of, you know, the whole current situation of the world. They were all canceled. So by the time I got this done, there were no Comic-Cons to go to. So I won't call myself a cosplayer yet. I'm aspiring to be, but hopefully whenever the first Comic-Con I can go to in the UK, hopefully it's MCM London, I will be there in this suit. And maybe if it goes on this whole thing goes on long enough, I might be able to bring 2 suits and be able to switch out, you know, one day, and I think this would be incredible. My favorite Marvel movie, it's a really strong tie between Iron Man 1, because I have to pay ode to the classic, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, because it was just such a good, it probably is like the best Marvel movie, because Endgame was just a cavalcade of characters with a cool plot, but Winter Soldier was just perfect. It was awesome. The arc for Steve, and I love that movie. And then Endgame, because it was just a cool movie. If you're watching this and you're considering getting into the hobby and you're on the fence about it, you want to make stuff but you're intimidated by it, just do it. Like I said before, just pull the trigger on it. You don't need to make stuff like this. You don't. You can do it for anything you want. You are limited by your imagination. And I know that sounds cheesy, but that's really the truth of this hobby. It's still in its infancy. I have 4 3D printers sitting in my house in this tiny room running, making me stuff that you'd only see in movies and comics, and like, that's insane. Like, I'm holding Stormbreaker. Like, if you told me this 5 years ago, like, you're gonna make a Stormbreaker that, like, I think looks halfway decent, or, you know, an Iron Man suit that you can wear, I would tell you you're lying. Like, this is just, it's nutty. It's incredible what you can do with this. And like I said, there's so many guides and tutorials out there to help you get started, mine included, that you don't need to be afraid to jump into this hobby. And I encourage anybody, please, like, go, start. And if you guys have any questions about anything like that, message me. I talk to everybody on Instagram. I'll put you on the right path, I promise. And then you never have to talk to me again. It's totally up to you. So yeah, I just go start 3D printing. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Geeks Gonna Geek, for having me. We'll talk about this forever, so I really appreciate you having me on for this interview. And if you haven't already subscribed to this guy, please do. He has a lot of cool content and a lot of future plans for some big stuff. So make sure you subscribe to Geeks Gonna Geek, and thanks for watching.